of course, I want America to lead the way, but ultimately, I want the human species to become a cosmic species. I want civilization to become cosmic. I want humanity to move into space and become sort of the beachhead, if you will, for life, terrestrial life, sort of returning to the cosmos from whence it ultimately came, but in a much higher form now than some simple microbial extremophile, which is probably how life originally landed here. If in fact exobiology is the explanation, and I find that very intriguing because I find this whole idea of directed exobiology to be just immensely fascinating and opening vistas that are almost impossible to comprehend at this point, but not necessarily to go all the way from the nuts and bolts of what we're doing right now out into the extremists of, I guess, maybe even theological speculation. So they also are building, or they've completed, they were building a space telescope, the Chinese were, with the intention of rivaling Hubble. And the name of that instrument, of that telescope, is Zhuntian Z. I don't speak fluent Chinese, in case anybody was wondering. Xuntian. Zuntian? I bet you could probably, I wonder if Google Translator would have the...
Let me see here.
I like to get the correct pronunciation for words and names whenever possible. But however you pronounce it, it translates as Survey of the Heavens.
You had it correct. It was Zhuntian. I just pulled that up.
Oh, okay. Zhuntian. I had it. Okay. Hey, pat on the back to me. However, its resolution, there it is. Yeah, resolution is going to be a little bit less than Hubble, but check this out. Its field of view is 300 times larger. And it's going to dock with China's Tiangong space station, which in 2021 was under construction. What is the status of the Tiangong space station? I think it's operational now, isn't it?
It was launched April 29th, 2021.
And that will become the way station for refueling and maintenance, the space station. And Tiangong translates as, I like this, palace in the sky. There, palace in the sky. Let's see, China.
It was launched on April 29th, 2021. This is followed by multiple crewed and uncrewed missions and the addition of 2 laboratory cabin modules. The first was Quest for the Heavens, is the English translation. I'm not going to attempt Wenqian. Mm-hmm. And the second was Mengtian, Dreaming of the Heavens.
Dreaming of the Heavens.
In October.
Quest for the Heavens, Palace in the Sky. I think they're making their vision of their future pretty clear there, it sounds like. Mm-hmm. It looks to me like they're planning to go for it.
So if we want a seat at the table, we probably want to get going. And we kind of are. NASA does have a plan. It's been put back a couple times. Mm-hmm. It's called the Artemis mission, as you know.
Right.
But the Artemis mission, the primary objective, I would say, in the meantime, is to find out, do we have water?
I think that's... I mean, I know there's scientific and academic objectives, studying the composition of micrometeorites and other things. But yeah, I think in terms of the practical terms, I think the survey, the prospecting for water, is probably the critical mission of Artemis.
It's the long-term objective to be able to create a human launch system that can go back and forth between a satellite and near rectilinear its halo orbit around the moon as it's rotating around the Earth. It'll be doing this near rectilinear orbit. But what exactly is the long-term science on lunar water? That's something that people have been looking for years.
Yeah, because, well, I mean, going back to, even the 90s when what was it? Michael B. Duke was the principal investigator. This was a NASA program to determine the presence of lunar water. So they started looking at the lunar South Pole. And on January 6th, 1998, Lunar Prospector was launched carrying an experiment called the neutron spectrometer. And this experiment was designed to detect hydrogen, which would indicate the presence of water ice on the moon. So analysis of the initial data indicated water ice mixed in the lunar regolith at relatively low concentrations, such as 0.3 to 1% by mass, but up to a total of 300 million metric tons. So that's a considerable amount of water. But the trick is going to be able to extract that water into usable amounts from the lunar regolith when it's at such low concentrations. Now, what I'm quoting from goes back to 1991, so we've made considerable progress since then, and I would be interested in finding out what would be the technological capacity now to extract water ice or water from the lunar regolith, which, by the way, is simply the pulverized material that has accumulated in some cases to great depths on the lunar surface that resulted from the repeated bombardment of hypervelocity projectiles onto the lunar surface, which is why there are so many hundreds of thousands of craters on the surface of the moon. However, now it could be, and it appears to be, that at the lunar South Pole, or maybe both poles, there could be greater concentrations of water in the form of ice. Let's see. So it goes on here. Subsequent data indicates that the lunar poles may contain up to 6 billion metric tons of water ice. The neutron data maps for the north and south pole of the moon show the dip in the neutron signal, which is the blue and purple regions. I guess I have a graphic here, but essentially shows dark blue around the north and south poles. And that dip in the neutron signal is consistent with the signature of water ice. I would like to mention that one of our original sponsors at Cosmographia, CBD from the Gods, is following us here to our new podcast, Squaring the Circle. As many of you know, I've been using their products for going on 4 years now, and having tried a number of CBD brands, CBD from the Gods seems the most effective for my needs, which is primarily as a sleep aid and as a remedy for inflammation and associated pain. I use both the oil and the salve. My wife also likes their products, especially the salve, which alleviates the pain in her hands, which is the result of working for years as an electrician. If you've been thinking about trying a CBD product and experiencing the benefits for yourself, give CBD from the Gods a try. To learn more and see their product line, check out cbdfromthegods.com. Any purchase of their products helps our efforts here at Squaring the Circle to realize our goal of making this world a better place. Thanks. The ice deposits are confined to an area of approximately 1,850 square kilometers at each lunar pole to a depth of 2 meters. Which is the result of regolith mixing over the past 2 billion years. The water signature is 15% stronger at the North Pole than the South Pole. Okay, I'd forgotten that fact. Now, why is water valuable? Well, there's two main reasons. I mean, there's scientific value to it because it can give us insight into the pristine cometary and meteoritic or asteroidal material. But primarily from the practical standpoint now, it would provide life support for future manned lunar exploration, also for, building a permanent manned presence on the moon. If a lunar base or a colony on the moon is much more feasible if there is a usable volume of water available already on the moon. And then also importantly, with the hydrogen, you've got a source of rocket fuel, an oxidizer for low-cost moon to space transport systems, because that's when it comes to the long-term exploration of the solar system, the moon is really like the ideal spaceport location, because its launch energy requirements, the energy for launch is like 20%, like 5 times less than launching the equivalent payload from the Earth, and that has to do with the fact that the moon, of course, is such much lower gravity. So it was Kraft Ericki who said, he was the German, or no, Russian. Was he German or Russian? He was, one of the visionary founding fathers of space exploration, and he's got this famous quote that I love, that if God had not intended mankind to become a spacefaring civilization, he wouldn't have given us the moon.
It's
so other sources of water out there in space could be micrometeoroids, which some of them can contain up to 10% water. There's the North Pole, and there's the South Pole. And so the blue and purple region are showing this dip in the neutron signal, which is consistent with the presence of water. So that's actually what it's referring to. Now, again, this is older, so we need to see what the latest evidence would suggest, and what if my understanding is correct, within the next few years we're going to get a much greater insight into that. I mean, because that is one of the primary focuses of the Artemis mission, is mapping the presence of lunar water.
Yes. We're hoping to get an actual landed crew in 27, and that's the objective at the moment. But we'll see if that really happens.
Well, we should make clear now, we've had one mission that was successful. That it's a 3-part mission. So the first was essentially the launch vehicle and transporting an unmanned empty Orion module and orbiting the moon and returning. Artemis 1, first human spacecraft to the moon in the 21st century. Artemis 2, first humans to orbit the moon in the 21st century. So that's going to be exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that Artemis 2 was originally scheduled for this year, but it's been pushed back.
It's been pushed back to 26. Artemis 1, you and I were talking about this before we got on air. Artemis 1 was supposed to launch in 2016 and effectively got canned until 22.
Yeah.
Where you wrote about it in a newsletter, but they're finally, hopefully, going to get Artemis 2 off the ground using the SLS to get that payload, at least to do a moon orbit. And this is the way we did it with Apollo. We're doing the same thing with the Orion probes and the Artemis mission.
So Artemis support mission, the first high-power solar electric propulsion system. So there's a new acronym for us to learn, John. The SEP, the Solar Electric Propulsion. I'd be interesting to see how that works.
I'm guessing it's some sort of ionic canopy, like a solar. Would it be like a solar sail, or are we looking at ion propulsion?
I don't know. We're going
to be reading up. You and I have homework.
You and I are going to have homework. Yes, because I'm, circling around to various areas of focus, and at this point now, with these new developments that I've been waiting for several decades for. It's exciting. So I need to get up to speed on this, because this is something I've long advocated, and I want to stay abreast of all the new developments that are happening.